Hello and welcome to the Weekly Defence Podcast, the show about defence procurement and military technology. We are brought to you in partnership with our sponsor Honeywell. I'm your host Richard Thomas, Senior Editor Naval, and on the show this week we talk to the Royal Navy Commodore Robert Belfield about the mission of the International Maritime Security Construct, IMSC, in tackling specific maritime threats around the Arabian Peninsula, and we chat to L3 Harris Technologies about the first year of operations for the newly merged company and how it has overcome the impact of COVID-19 on its business. But first, let's take a look at some of the news from this week. Armoured vehicle programmes in Central and Eastern Europe are in jeopardy due to economic effects of COVID-19, new analysis from Shephard Defence Insight indicates. Tightening economic constraints resulting from the pandemic could upset a recent trend of increased spending in new NATO states, compounding the already significant risk attached to high-value armoured programmes. Further east, amid Chinese violations in the western sector of the line of actual control, the Indian Defence Minister discussed the delivery of additional Su-30 and MiG-29 fighters on a 3-day visit to Moscow. Expediting delivery of the S-400 Triumph anti-missile system was also on Rajnath Singh's agenda. Australia is seeking to improve its training capabilities as the Army prepares to upgrade its existing M1A1 Abrams main battle tanks. Under Project Land 907 Phase 2, the Army is moving to the upgraded M1A2 variant, which will introduce new support and bespoke immersive training for the Australian tank crews. In the naval domain, the German MOD can finally move ahead with the procurement of 4 MKS-180 combat ships, with 2 more on option to replace the Brandenburg-class frigates in a contract that could be worth up to €6 billion. Attention will now turn to the detailed design and construction phase, with construction of the first-in-class expected to begin in 2023, ahead of a 2028 delivery date. Ship 2 will follow in late 2029, Ship 3 by mid-2030, and Ship 4 in the second half of 2031. Acting as prime for the programme is Netherlands shipbuilder Damen Shipyards, which will partner with Blohm & Voss and other German yards for the manufacturing process, while Thales Netherlands will provide radar and other sensors. The MKS-180 multi-role combat ships, frigates in all but name, will be the first in the German Navy to use a towed array sonar for ASW operations. To discuss this and more, I am joined by news editor Ben Vogel and land reporter Flava Kamagos-Pereira. Hello, both.
Hi there.
Hello.
So, Ben, you have a story from Southeast Asia on a newly emerged controversy between China and Taiwan over Kangding-class frigates. Over to you.
Thank you. Well, the export of Dagai Mark II countermeasures launchers from France for installation on Taiwanese Kangding frigates has, predictably enough, generated fury in China as Beijing continues to exert pressure on Taipei. The Chinese government is becoming increasingly assertive and aggressive in recent times in its foreign policy, as we've all seen with the recent border brawl between the Indian and Chinese troops. And in the case of these particular countermeasures, Beijing has warned Paris that continued support for Taiwan would cause Sino-French relations to deteriorate.
Yeah, this is Tom Withington writing the article, isn't it? So he said that the Kangding class were originally likely fitted with baseline Dagai. What details did he provide as to what the Mark II variant might do better?
In terms of the kit itself, the Dagai Mark II does enhance the self-protection of the Kangding class. For example, the soft kill capabilities include corner reflectors to defeat radar-guided anti-ship missiles by fooling the weapon, essentially, into homing in on the reflector as a more tempting target. Although the manufacturer of Dagai has not publicised this, it may be that the corner reflectors are effective against anti-ship missiles using radar seekers transmitting in the 8.5 to 40 gigahertz wavebands. Now, these wavebands include the frequencies that are routinely used by People's Liberation Army Navy anti-ship missiles. So concerns on the Chinese mainland over the planned Kangding-class upgrade may go even beyond the usual aggressive stance towards Taiwan's relationships with foreign defence equipment providers. They also hint at wider worries about the potential blunting of.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. I mean, one wonders as always, about the ramifications should such a deal be completed. You just look at the numbers between the two countries in terms of trade. China is France's second largest supplier with a 9% market share in the country compared to a 1.4% in the reverse order. The French government has stated that Chinese investment in France has grown significantly in recent years. China has 6 billion euros in FDI stock in the country, and China also represents France's largest bilateral trade deficit, measuring at 29.2 billion euros in 2018. But then I suppose diplomacy isn't always about the numbers. Interesting, Ben. Thanks very much. Flavia, some news from your home country this week with the Brazilian MOD reassessing a cancelled decree, I believe. Tell us more.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a confusing story. The Brazilian Ministry of Defense is reassessing a cancelled presidential order that would have allowed the army to operate an air arm. This decree was signed by Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro on the 2nd of June, but it was withdrawn 3 days later. So the army could operate fixed wings for only 3 days. With this removal, the previous decree issued in 1986 was reactivated of an army aviation branch, but stated that the ground force could only operate helicopters.
That's interesting. So why was the decree cancelled?
Yeah, the Ministry of Defense confirmed that asked for the removal to analyze its content. It was added that the wording used allowed different and unwanted understandings of the rule. But this is not the only one reason. Former personnel from the Brazilian Air Force, they criticized the new decree through the national media. They claimed that the Air Force's budget would be negatively impacted, including the Lieutenant Brigadier Rossato, the former Air Force commander. He released a letter challenging the decree. And this is an unusual stance for ex-senior military officers in Brazil. The Army intends to operate aircraft since the creation of its aviation, and the main benefit for the Army would be to provide logistic support to border forces that form the front line of protection in Brazilian North. These units, they are located inside the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by the jungle and far from cities. It's hard to understand, but the region has no roads and only boats, vessels, and aircraft can supply these units. And it's a huge area. Just to have an idea, the area of the UK is 200,000 square kilometers. And the area only of the Amazon rainforest is 5.5 million square kilometers. And the Army, including, has conducted a study that concluded the best option to operate in this area would be the Shephard C-23B. This airplane, it was operated by the U.S. National Guard, and it was retired in 2014. And the Brazilian Army initially intended to procure 8 Sherpas. And the Army has conducted a budget study and allocated around $8 million to acquire the first 2 airplanes.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know what the Brazilian Army thought about this. They had, for 3 days, an interesting new capability to potentially play with and nearly performing a capability land grab from their Air Force counterparts. Close, maybe next time. Interesting, Flavia. Thank you very much. And again, to our listeners, you can read everything we've talked about here and a whole lot more at shepherdmedia.com/news. Coming up next is my interview with Commodore Belfield, where we discuss current naval operations around the Arabian Peninsula and how the IMSC's mission differs from others in the region.
This episode of the Weekly Defence Podcast is brought to you in partnership with Honeywell Aerospace. With an unmatched heritage of innovation that spans more than a century, Honeywell aims to solve military customers' greatest challenges and transform the way they fly.
In a region awash with key maritime trade routes and choke points like the Bab el-Mandeb, Arabian Sea, Gulf of Oman, Strait of Hormuz, to name a few, it's little wonder that the waters around the Arabian Peninsula are home to such a wide collection of international maritime security missions. However, there is one with perhaps a very different purpose than its compatriots, the recently created International Maritime Security Construct. Joining me on the Weekly Defence podcast from his Bahrain headquarters is Commodore Robert Belfield of the UK Royal Navy, who in May took up his position in command of the multinational force. Commodore, thanks very much for your time.
It's your pleasure.
Commodore, what's the purpose of the IMSC and how does it differ from the many other security missions ongoing in the region?
Well, IMSC, as you've already spelt out, is the International Maritime Security Construct, and that is a coalition of nations within which there is Operation Sentinel, which clearly is the operational element of the construct. Now, our mission is relatively simple, and I think first and foremost, just need to emphasise the fact this is an international coalition that seeks a solution to an international problem. And we are a coalition of 8 nations who join together with the mutual interest of maintaining freedom of navigation and providing reassurance to the global merchant community and upholding the law or the rule of law at sea. Now, I think the key point you asked me is, how do we differ from other international maritime security missions within the region? And there is quite a simple difference, really, in that our mission is to focus on ensuring that we maintain freedom of navigation and trade through this region and to deter and prevent malign activity by a state actor. Now, the other very important maritime coalition in this area, obviously, is the Combined Maritime Forces, or CMF. And their remit is very much more on sort of non-state actors looking at counter-narcotics, counter-terrorism, counter-piracy in their work. But we're much more focused on making sure that there's no malign activity by a state actor that could prevent the free movement of trade through this important maritime region.
Sure, I mean, we'll obviously get on to the idea of what threats state actors might present, but just for our listeners, where does the IMSC get its assets from? You mentioned a number of countries that are participating in the mission, so where do the warships come from?
Right, well, I think as the coalition is largely founded by some of the major maritime actors in the region, there's US, UK, Australia, 3 nations that have a long history of operating and maintaining maritime security in the Gulf and wider region. But also, importantly, we've got support from regional partners, from Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, who are key in terms of their providing that regional understanding, and also the fact that they're using and providing assets to maintain our presence in these waters.
Obviously, 2019 and 2020 saw a number of attacks and boardings on commercial shipping in transit through the areas of water that I mentioned right at the outset by state or state-backed actors, as far as we can understand. What is the current threat level, and how does the IMSC work to ensure that maritime security is upheld in this region?
Yeah, you're absolutely right to go back to 2019, and obviously IMSC was formed based on the events surrounding the attempted seizure of British heritage, which was prevented by the intervention of one of the British units out here at the time, but then also the actual taking hostage of the Stena Imperio. So based on that, it was quite clear that what we can't have is this sort of continued threat to trade through here, and it was important that a maritime security framework was put in place to provide assurance to the shipping industry that flows through here. So So that was the basis for it. Since then, what is absolutely key is that I task my units to provide presence and overwatch, particularly through the choke points in the region, with a lot of focus on Strait of Hormuz, quite clearly, and the entry and exit points of the strait, where we must be vigilant in deterring those potential threats. So we've got routine patrols, both by our Sentinels, which are our larger frigates and destroyers from within the coalition, and also the Sentry units, which are the smaller patrol craft that operate in the Arabian Gulf. But also, it's not just the ships on the high seas, but also the air assets. So we can use our maritime patrol aircraft to provide that persistent overwatch, and to ensure that we're able to watch and then respond to any malign activity by a state actor.
Give us an idea. What's the tempo of operations been like since you took command?
Well, I think what's important, if we're going to provide that assurance to the maritime community and to the shipping industry, and I have a very important role in liaising with industry because I see them as our customers, but we have to maintain constant presence. So we've got I'm maintaining 100% coverage in the key area of interest, which is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, of course, I haven't got enough forces to have deployed throughout the region from the Bab el-Mandeb through the Arabian Sea and up to the Gulf of Oman. But in the ideal world, I would do. But I think what is really important is that we combine both our shipping assets and our air assets to maintain a vigilant overwatch throughout that period. And what is key for me is that I'm able to respond to any potential threat to a merchant vessel in the choke points, and making sure that with our sort of high tempo of operation that we're able to expose any malign activity and spot it coming.
So we've talked about the threats to maritime security in the region. I mean, are there state actors other than Iran, let's say, that might threaten shipping in the region, or is that the focus? Well,
it's a very complicated operational environment, as I'm sure everyone understands. The key area here, and we see it based on our experience of 2019, is where if Iran decides that she needs to further her own interests by interrupting maritime trade, she can do so, and clearly. So that our main focus is to ensure that that does not happen, and provide assurance that ships can freely come through these choke points without being interrupted or in those trade flows or taken. And I think that's where it's really important that my liaison with industry and that my ability to put ships in the right place to be able to respond in times of tension is clear. But that there are also complications in the Bab el-Mandeb Straits as well in terms of the conflict there within Yemen. So we also watch that area very carefully. We maintain our aerial overwatch certainly in that region, and occasionally put ships down there to again provide assurance to the vast numbers of ships that move through the Bab el-Mandeb Straits as well.
Yeah, can I ask just quickly, what reaction have you received? Have your ships received? Have your personnel received from shipping operating in these choke points when they hear or see your assets there? I assume it's a source of great reassurance for them.
Well, you expect me to say that, wouldn't you? But actually, that is true. And I was talking to industry today, actually. And what's really important is that it's the simple things like just regular VHF calls out to all the ships in the vicinity, just to let them know that we're there for a good reason. We're there for their protection and to build up their confidence. And talking to our ships who are out there doing these maritime awareness calls, they frequently get a very positive response from the merchant ships that are coming through, particularly those who are flagged to the participating nations, which is good. And we always stand by to engage through other organisations such as UK MTO, who are the sort of key link into into the ships that are coming through to provide any support as necessary. Often it's just a bit of a call to say, we are here, we're here to respond if we're needed.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that the difficulties that you face, this immense bodies of water that you have to patrol and secure. So what efforts are there being made to integrate additional partner nations into the IMSC construct? And what kind of capabilities, specific capabilities, might be sought? Is it more aircraft you need? Is it more patrol ships? Is it more frigates?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a number of areas. So obviously, the important part of having a wide international community that's involved in IMSC is important. And actually, Albania and Lithuania are about to have joined IMSC and will be providing staff into the headquarters. And that just shows how important it is that the whole international community, contributes to this important coalition, because we all rely upon trade flowing freely in and out of these choke points. But actually, you would understand that what I'm really keen to have is partners who can provide regular force flow into our patrols. And I'm really glad to say this, it's not just the sort of key large blue water maritime nations of US, UK, and Australia, but also the very important role that's played by our regional partners, I've said before, and what we've been able to develop over time here with IMSC is that really important information sharing at a classified level between our regional partners, which is key to have an integrated approach to the Op Sentinel patrols, both within the Gulf and within the Straits themselves. So, what I've seen from here, 6 years since I was last operating out in this region, is a much closer relationship between the nations and a very important role that's played by my local partner nations or my regional partner nation staff within the headquarters. It's all about understanding the environment that we're operating in.
Just finally, Commodore, I mean, how long is the IMSC's mandate due to run for? And do you think we might see an enduring presence for the mission in the region? Yeah, I mean, I think the coalition is in a good place at the moment, and partly sort of reflecting your last question as well. What I'm seeing here at the moment is developing IMSC further, taking IMSC with its current construct and just really taking it a step forward and improving our own operational capability across the partner nations. So I'm not really driving to increase membership any further. We'd be delighted for any nation who wants to come into IMSC can do so, and particularly if they can provide assets to us. But I'm not going out searching for lots of new countries to join us. But looking further ahead, like a lot of this, IMSC was set up for a reason. It has a mandate of providing deterrence and providing assurance, which is quite an interesting, sort of mandate within our mission. But if it is a conditions-based construct, and if we get to a situation where that the shipping industry and has the confidence that global trade could continue to flow through this region unhindered from any form of intervention from a state actor, then we're looking to a place then where you can wonder, well, do we still need to have constant patrols out? So we're always monitoring the operational situation very carefully and looking at the sort of causal factors of instability in the region. But if it is deemed that those have been resolved, then we're into a position of where we've got confidence in the maritime security of the region. Then obviously we would look as to whether IMSC is still required. So in answer to your question, I don't see it going on in perpetuity. I see it being a condition-based construct, and when all is well in the region, then IMSC doesn't necessarily need to be out on patrol. Commodore Robert Belfield, thanks very much for coming on. Much appreciated.
At Shephard Media, we understand defence and aerospace audiences and how to reach them. We've been doing that for 4 decades, and now you can fill the gap left by cancelled trade shows with Shephard's new Defence Audiences marketing solution. Defence Audiences aims to mitigate the lack of events by bringing innovative marketing to the forefront of the industry, allowing you to take advantage of our digital leadership to achieve your marketing goals for the year. Our Defence Audiences offering provides predefined and bespoke packages of solutions for companies looking to tell their stories and influence key defence decision makers with product launches, thought leadership, lead generation, or product education. To position your brand centrally to the defence and aerospace markets, speak to Shephard Media about how Defence Audiences will help you today.
Hello, my name's Andrew White. I'm a regular contributor for Shephard Media, and today I'm joined by Dana Maynard, President of Communication Systems at L3Harris Technologies. Dana, welcome to the podcast.
Great to be here.
If I can start by asking you, we're 1 year on from the merger between L3 and Harris. What's the current state of the company?
Well, thank you, Andrew. It's great to be here with you today, and look forward to seeing you again in person at one of the shows, hopefully sometime in the near future. So, 1 year on, it's been a pretty remarkable first year as a combined company. We came together as L3Harris as a team on the 1st of July last year, and so I really couldn't be more proud of what our employees and the leadership team have accomplished over this last year, and in really unprecedented times for all of us. It's really our employees who have made the merger successful. It came together in the face of adversity and are working every day to fulfill the mission of the new L3Harris. I think most importantly, our customers have applauded the combination of the new companies and our greater ability to address their needs. I think they highly value the mission-critical capabilities we bring to them through each of our businesses, but especially appreciate what we can do with the greater scale of the new combined company, really offering them more choices as a major competitor in the aerospace and defense market. And so, if I look at it 1 year on, we're making good on the value proposition of the merger, bringing together two strong complementary aerospace and defense companies to create an even stronger and more capable combined company. When we came together as L3 and Harris, we created the 6th largest U.S. aerospace and defense prime, 10th largest in the world. We're now $18 billion in revenue, nearly 50,000 employees. And I think by any measure, it's really been a successful year. So look on it a couple of different dimensions. Strategically, we set out to leverage the broader scale of the two companies and our complementary technology. I think we've done a very good job on that. We've already captured significant revenue synergies, submitting 41, combined proposals leveraging technologies from the different companies. It's $2 billion of potential business over the next several years. Operationally, great progress. We're, through 1 year of a 3-year integration roadmap, and we're delivering, cost synergies ahead of schedule and at greater value. We also, I think most importantly, are building a strong operational excellence culture focused on continuous improvement. And I think that will help sustain our performance trajectory even beyond the integration period. And then financially, we're at or ahead of all of the objectives that we set out as part of the deal proposition for revenue, for margins, for free cash flow. And we've also made significant progress shaping the portfolio of the new businesses to be even stronger and more focused on our core technology-driven aerospace and defense markets. Overall, the teams come together very well, amazingly well for two companies of the scale. If I look at the different businesses, and mine in particular, we're half L3 and half Harris, and a year on, you wouldn't know who came from where. We've really blended together and focused on our mission of doing an even better job of supporting our global customer base on their very, very critical missions. So year in, despite all of the challenges of COVID, I think we're doing very well and ahead of schedule, and I think have even exceeded the expectations that we all had for the merger.
Excellent. Thank you, Dana. What would you say were the greatest lessons learned regarding the merger and the transition into the joint business model?
I think the power of the combination, it was a good premise set forward, a good value proposition that Chris and Bill came up with, but we're finding new things every day. The complementary technologies, we competed in very few areas. We divested a legacy Harris night vision business because L3 had a stronger business that we took into the portfolio. But by and large, tremendous complements. If I look at what we're doing, bringing together different electronic warfare technologies, advanced resilient waveforms in my business, the ability to create integrated soldier systems, leveraging the night vision technology and the communications technology. The biggest surprises have really all been positive in terms of, I would say, even stronger complementary capabilities and technologies, and then just everybody's ability to work together.
Any challenges you can mention?
I mean, there are always challenges. The biggest one, I think, for all of us has been COVID and how we respond to, a large portion of our workforce working remotely, our customers having to deal with travel restrictions, site access restrictions, really a new way of doing business for everybody across the world, managing a global supply chain in that environment. I'm amazed at how well the team has adapted. If you would have asked me, a year ago, could we have half the workforce working from home and not be slipping schedules, being able to continue to develop technology, supporting our customers, I would have thought you're crazy. But I've been very, very impressed that the resiliency of our employees, the resiliency of our customers, their innovativeness and openness to try new things, to continue meeting their mission requirements in the face of all of the changes we've all gone through with COVID.
In terms of your specific communication systems segment, Dana, what have been the highlights of that division to date since the merger?
I think it's really what we can now do for our customers, on a much broader technology scale. L3 and Harris respectively had made significant investments in resilient waveforms, the most advanced LPI, LPD capabilities. Now bringing those together, we have an even stronger portfolio that I think has put us forward multiple years of what we would have been on our own independent development tracks. The ability to extend that across all of the domains, ranging from space to airborne to land warfare, where we've been obviously very specialized as Harris, to now surface vessels and even under the sea. And then, what we can do for the soldier, bringing a very, very strong, business in the legacy L3 business, not only for night vision, but aiming devices. We really can provide the full suite of sensors and capabilities the soldier needs, and then the ability to get that information out to higher command levels and then infiltrate information back to the soldier. So together with the communications capability, the night vision, the laser aiming, the sensing capability, I think we're doing a lot to make the soldier more effective on key programs like the ENVGB program for the U.S. Army, the next generation network modernization. And, we're doing the same kinds of things for our global customer base in Australia, and looking forward to Morpheus and some of the related programs in the UK.
Just looking at the UK, Dan, I mean, you mentioned Morpheus. Any particular programs you're interested in pursuing?
Yeah, so we have a pretty big footprint combined now with L3 Harris in the UK. 2,000 plus people, includes some very interesting legacy businesses, the TRL business, and all the great things they do. I would say in our business, it's really related to everything that's comms modernization. Morpheus, obviously, the big program out there, and as the incumbent provider of all of the Bowman radios, 50,000 plus radios that we build in the UK for the Bowman program. We've been working with the MOD and, of course, GD in the UK to sustain those since Bowman has gone into service. But we're really looking forward to the modernization and the improvement of that network as Morpheus and all of the different phases of Morpheus start to come online. So that's a big program. It's a complicated program, as you know, Andrew. But we're looking forward to participating in the multiple different parts of that relate to the communications network and refreshing and modernizing the British Army's capability with the latest network communications technology that we're bringing to the U.S., that we're bringing to Australia and other allies.
Any particular elements of the business, Dana, which have surprised you in the first year of operation?
Number of surprises, but they've really all been been positive, I would say. I was positively surprised at the strength of the L3 portfolio in ISR and airborne ISR, how well that complements the things that we had done on the ground, and then some of the nascent things we were making investments in airborne. So it really strengthens the broader portfolio and integrating all of the airborne sensors from an ISR perspective with the ground capability that we've been offering. And the overall strength of the night vision and that soldier systems business, and now being able to bring that together with our networking technology on the ground and provide so much more capability to the soldier.
Dana, has the merger opened up any new market spaces for L3 Harris technologies around the world?
I think we have a stronger portfolio that gives us an ability to compete on a different scale, and then complementary presence. It more than doubled our presence in the UK, more than doubled our presence in Australia, in Canada, and other key markets where individually we had been very strong. But now, if you look at the additional scale, it gives us more local capability, provides more attractive career options for folks in each of those markets. So it's easier to recruit some of the best talent. And then obviously in terms of local industry content participation, where we're doing extensive engineering, in addition to pure sustainment. We had done manufacturing in the UK before, as I mentioned, on Morpheus, but the combined company and the scale that we now have opens up a lot of additional possibilities in those core markets.
And with that in mind, Dana, where do you see the future for L3 Harris moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I think we know what we want to be. We're a very good, focused, very capable aerospace and defense company that's technology driven. So we will expand, we will grow, in those areas where we can apply our technology to the very demanding problems that our customers have and mission requirements. So I think you'll see us, focused on those key markets like the UK, like Australia, of course, the modernization programs in the US, and where we can bring those very advanced technical solutions to meet the most difficult problems that our customers have.
And just finally, Dana, when do you see the markets returning to normal after the global pandemic?
Oh boy, I wish I could answer that, Andrew. I mean, we're all sort of trying to adjust. Is this a new normal? Is this going to be a prolonged situation? I think we're sort of cautiously approaching it with that eventuality. We've gone through a very modest, sort of return to the workplace. I wouldn't say return to work because people have been working from home, but we had, at our peak had about half of our people working at home and working remotely. We're bringing a few of them back now. How long this is going to last, I would be hard pressed to give you anything more than a guess. We're, like everybody, hoping that it's sooner rather than later, but kind of preparing to, deal with this and support our customers as though this is going to be a long-term situation.
Thank you, Dana. And what thoughts would you like to leave our listeners with regarding the current state of L3 technologies, L3 Harris technologies, rather?
Well, I mean, it's great to have the opportunity to talk with them and talk with you about that. A year in, it really has been an exciting year. I think we have delivered beyond the promise that we saw there when, Bill Brown and Chris Kubasik first got together and imagined what this company could be. I think they're both very bright guys. I saw a lot of promise in terms of two strong, independent companies that had great technology and great people and great market positions, but individually perhaps lacked the scale to go and offer the full breadth of solutions that some of the other top A&D primes could offer. Now we've got that, and we've brought that together in ways that I think have really exceeded our expectations. The combinations of the business are unlocking tremendous potential that I think is going to benefit our customers throughout the world. We've already seen that in a number of instances, some of which we've talked about here today. But I think we'll see more of that, and we will be a stronger global player that will offer better solutions to our customers, give them more choices, and we look forward to continuing to support them across the world.
Perfect. Dana Maynard, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure, Andrew. Always good to talk with you. I look forward again to hopefully seeing you in person someplace in the world soon.
This episode of the Weekly Defence Podcast was brought to you in partnership with our sponsor, Honeywell. As always, a big thanks to everyone who took the time in being a part of the episode. And for our listeners, make sure you like and subscribe, leave a review on iTunes, and tell a friend or a colleague about the podcast. Until next week, thanks for listening.